I was at Rugby Judo Club for a year at the little blue hut at the back of a pub, and it was after a year that Dad decided that we needed a bigger club to practice at. And I think he kind of recognised that me and my brother had got to a stage where we needed to go further. So obviously we had the potential. So he sent us off to Coventry, and I remember stepping on the mat for the very first time. It was totally a different ball game from the small club in rugby, and I loved it because it was stronger kids, stronger opposition, and just a totally different ball game. It was a competition club, and Brian Perriman, who was the absolute foundation of the club, took a shine, I think, to Chris and I, and just helped us all the way through our career. I mean, he helped me as well when I eventually went down to London, and it was Brian who actually rallied the Coventry members to help me stay down there. And without their help, my journey would have been, well, just so much more difficult, if not impossible. So I owe them so much. And that was the club, always supporting their talented fighters and encouraging them to go further. And it was, I think, Jerry White and Bruce Newcomb, two amazing judoka. I mean, Gerald White was first reserve for the 64 Olympic Games, a brilliant middleweight judoka. And I mean, they were the first to go down to London to further their careers at the Wrenchten and the Budokai. And the Coventry Club supported it all the way. I remember the practices at Coventry. It was all about pecking order and, for the juniors and for the seniors. And that was the system all the way through. You had to be tough to cope with it. Brian was a tough as nails character, and Coventry Elite, well, they took no prisoners, so we enjoyed it and came out the other side better, I think, for it. And I think all of my junior career was at Coventry Club, although I did start to go over to Solihull as well, and so I had a kind of a double whammy there, which I was very lucky for. And that was my dad. Not only was he the main coach at Coventry, but he also encouraged us to use other practices as well. He never just kept hold of us and said, right, just Coventry. And but of course he was the Midland area junior coach, and of course it was all about development for him. And I think that with my dad holding our judo reins, and with Coventry Club behind me, I was kind of heading in the right direction. And I think it must have been the most difficult decision for him to send me to London. I think in his mind, he'd decided that I was at the stage of my judo career that I needed to train with the top fighters and coaches to take me further. But that was my dad. It was all about progression, not possession. So off to London I went with the full support of Coventry Club. And whenever I could, I remember I'd come back, visit Coventry to see all my friends, show them just how I was progressing. And it was quick progression, I can tell you. It was good to get home and see and practice with all my old mates. And loved going back to see everyone. And I remember on some of my return visits, I noticed that the club was starting to fall into disrepair, needed a little more, I think, than just a coat of paint. And this one time that I returned, this was a little bit later on, near the end of my competitive career, there was talk of selling the club because of lack of funds to repair and renovate it. It came just at the right time for all of us, though, really, because I was looking for the next chapter in my career. My competitive career was coming to an end, and Coventry needed help. And I remember saying to Brian Perriman, don't sell it yet. but give us a couple of weeks to try and organise something. And after several meetings with the bank and Coventry Judo Club, a plan was hatched. And we managed to secure money to purchase the club. But after talking to the club, it was kind of crazy spending all the money, borrowing the money just to have the building if it was going to remain the same. So a special deal was organised with the club, and after arranging a kind of a peppercorn rent with the club, all the money that we borrowed was to renovate it and get it back to its former glory, or a little bit better. And it was going to be split into a health club for seriously unfit and overweight. So the whole idea was that was going to keep the club going, and then have a full-time setup with youngsters developing their skills and fitness levels for transition into international teams, but also to develop skills. And it was funny because in the 16 years that I had with my full-time athletes, the centre became more predominantly a skills school that coaches and fighters from all over the world came to. And it was funny because coaches came for that as well. And I suppose looking back, it was one of the greatest coaching achievements that I had. Not only did I have successful competitive athletes coming from the system, but now many of the coaches, many of the fighters were starting to establish themselves in their skills acquisition. And of course, they were later and are now the GB coaches themselves. So the system worked. I mean, it built a good technical base and sound technical understanding. And looking back, it was a great success. I mean, I didn't realise how successful it was going to be. But we were struggling at that particular time financially, running the business and the full-time training. But looking back, it gave me so much. I'll never forget the amazing times that we all had and how it changed our lives. And it's good to see that most of them stay in contact with each other and with me, and a lot of their children all playing with each other now. And great. I mean, I couldn't have asked for more. It built a camaraderie that I'll never forget. And looking back at Ashley, when he was 5 years old, I mean, he was 5 when it all kind of kicked off, and kind of grew up with these full-timers. And I think having 16 to 20 surrogate big brothers and sisters sometimes caused a problem. Let's just say I had to jump in sometimes to avert total disasters from happening. But interesting times, and I'm sure they will never forget them. I certainly won't. Made lots of mistakes, so did they, but I learnt so much too. And while the club was at one stage absolutely thriving, and as one old Coventry Judo Club member pointed out, it had added 16 unbelievable years, successful years, to a dying club. And it was so unfortunate. And one thing that I really regret, I mean, it was just one of those things really, that looking on the outside, of course, the members thought the club was thriving. What they didn't realise is that we were struggling to keep the club going. Financially, that was. The larger health clubs surrounding us were slowly squeezing us out of business. And it was becoming more and more difficult to make it pay. And of course, my young full-time athletes were getting older. And they too were looking for other things. And I was looking for something else that was going to make me money. I was making no money out of the club and financially in trouble. I think it came to a natural end in the end. And I had to eventually sell the club to survive. It was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do, was to sell the building. But Coventry Judo Club moved to another premises. The club spirit was always going to survive. Some of the older club members made sure that Coventry Club survive. They were determined that it would. And of course, not only that, but it still holds real competition strength. I mean, it's still going from strength to strength now. It's still one of the main clubs in the Midlands producing international fighters. And that's not only thanks to the support of the club, but also, of course, to Simon Moss, one of my ex-students, an incredible judoka himself. But, I mean, he's carried on with Coventry Judo Club, and he's building up some incredible juniors who are having great success at international level and winning medals at the highest level. And I think that looking back now, I mean, Coventry Club not only survived, but it's all about spirit, and spirit lives on. And I think the great thing about Coventry Judo Club is that it will forever be in my heart, and I will never forget the help and the support that I had in the past. It's been a great part of my life. It'll always be a part of my life. And I think that's one of the special things about having a club that lays the foundation, is that you never forget your roots. Signed books are available on neiladamsjudo.com. Or if listening to books is your preference, we have an audio version on all your favourite audio sites. Sign up for your free account on naeffectivefighting.com to watch my 4-part documentary of my life in judo.